Welcome, curious minds. Today we're diving into a topic that, well, it touches everyone, everywhere, aging. We've pulled together some truly compelling source material for you. Everything from rigorous clinical trial data and detailed research papers to expert interviews. And they're all exploring this unique dietary approach that might just influence how we age and maybe dramatically reduce our risk for certain diseases. Our mission on this deep dive is really to unpack the science behind something called the Fasting Mimicking Diet, or FMD. We're going to look at what it actually is, how it works its magic, at a cellular level, and also what recent human studies are revealing about its impact on things like your biological age, your body composition, and even your immune system. So get ready, because this could spark some truly surprising insights that, well, might reshape how you think about staying well-informed about your own health journey.
Exactly. What we're diving into today is essentially it's a way to tap into some really old biological processes. Think primal survival mechanisms, really, but used to give us modern health benefits. We're going to pull together all the evidence, look at what it means for your aging markers and disease risk, and then consider the bigger picture for long-term health and, longevity.
Okay, so let's start right at the beginning then. When many of you hear fasting, you probably picture, water-only fast or maybe chronic calorie restriction. But the FMD is different, right? How exactly is it different? What sets it apart?
Yeah, you've hit on a crucial point there. The fasting mimicking diet is it's a carefully designed, plant-based, low-calorie, low-protein dietary intervention. And importantly, you only follow it for 5 days. After that, you just go back to your normal way of eating. Now, that's profoundly different from chronic caloric restriction, or CR. CR means, continuously eating very little for extended periods, months, years even. And that can lead to significant, sometimes problematic weight loss, dropping BMI may be too low. And honestly, it's just not sustainable for most people long term. The whole idea, the core concept with FMD is to get those powerful benefits of fasting, but without that constant draining burden or the risks that come with, chronic deprivation.
Right, so it's the short burst that makes the difference.
Exactly. And what's truly ingenious here is the cycling aspect. That's key. These periodic FMD cycles, followed by periods of normal eating, they're absolutely essential. They trigger these, incredible breakdown processes that actively target dysfunctional cells in your body, like a cleanup crew. Then, during the refeeding phase, your body shifts into this powerful regenerative mode, generating new, more functional cells. It's not about continuous scarcity. It's about structured, intentional periods of deep cellular rest and then, crucially, renewal.
That idea of structured renewal, I like that. It's almost like hitting a biological reset button, isn't it? So diving deeper into that, reprogramming you called it, how exactly does this specific diet trick the body into thinking it's starving? And what incredible cellular shifts actually happen when it does?
Yeah, it's quite remarkable, really. On a cellular level, FMD works by basically nudging your body into a temporary metabolic state. It starts burning ketone bodies and fatty acids for fuel rather than its usual preference for glucose. Then when you refeed, that's when it stimulates stem cells in various organs, essentially helping to rebuild parts of your system that might have, let's say, shrunk or been cleared out during the FMD phase. It also seems to significantly reduce inflammation. It acts like a really smart cleanup crew, actively recognizing and clearing away cellular damage.
A smart cleanup crew.
Okay.
And what's particularly striking, I think, is that it preferentially targets damaged or precancerous cells. And even certain autoimmune cells, while, and this is amazing, remarkably protecting your healthy normal cells. We see this in animal models, at least. Think of FMD acting like a really precise checkpoint and filter for your entire body, intelligently picking out the bad stuff and getting rid of it.
Like quality control for cells. Exactly. It's kind of analogous to apoptosis, which is your body's natural process for eliminating harmful cells. Or even maybe how deep sleep is critical for brain restoration. We've even seen in mouse studies for inflammatory bowel disease that the FMD's plant-based content, especially its prebiotics, well, combined with the fasting properties, it can lead to even more potent effects like colon and intestinal regeneration, maybe even more so than just water-only fasting.
Wow, that sounds almost too good to be true, targeting only the bad cells. It's like, a system-wide spring cleaning, but with a highly intelligent filter. Okay, so let's move on to perhaps one of the most compelling revelations from this research. Its effect on biological age. We all get chronological age, birthdays. But what exactly is biological age, and what did these studies show about the FMD's impact on it?
Right, biological age. It's a far more insightful measure than just how many candles were on your last cake. It's a metric that's highly predictive of your risk for disease and even mortality, how long you might live healthily. It takes a whole panel of your clinical chemistry, biomarkers, things like albumin levels, C-reactive protein, which indicates inflammation, HbA1c, that's your average blood sugar, systolic blood pressure, cholesterol, a whole range of things, and it combines them into a single variable. And this variable truly captures the overall level and, importantly, the rate at which your whole organism is aging. In many ways, yeah, it's a better predictor of your remaining healthy life expectancy than just your age in years.
Okay, that makes sense. So it's a more holistic picture of aging.
Exactly. And regarding the FMD's impact, well, 2 significant clinical trials yielded some, frankly, incredible findings. In the first trial, participants who completed 3 FMD cycles saw a median decrease of 2.5 years in their biological age. 2.5 years. And what's truly remarkable, really gets your attention, is that this reduction was completely independent of weight loss.
Wait, really? Independent of weight loss?
Completely. So even if someone didn't lose a single pound, they could still potentially turn back their biological clock by over 2 years based on these markers. The second trial showed almost identical results, a median decrease of 2.7 years. And when researchers pooled the samples from both trials, so that's 86 participants altogether, the median biological age decrease was a very consistent 2.6 years.
2.6 years, that's substantial. But did everyone see this drop, or were there exceptions?
That's a fair question. And no, not quite everyone. About 30% in one trial and 21% in the other actually showed a slight increase in biological age.
Oh, an increase. How does that work?
Well, what's crucial to understand here is who those people were. This was most often observed in individuals who were already very healthy at the start, like people with very low blood pressure or really low C-reactive protein already. So for them, it appears to be more of maybe a normalization, or perhaps what statisticians call a regression toward the mean, rather than a true worsening of their biology.
Ah, okay. So if you're already super healthy, there's less room for improvement, maybe.
That seems to be the case. The key takeaway, and this is a really powerful insight, I think, is that the greatest benefits were consistently seen in those who are most unhealthy at baseline, which strongly suggests a significant corrective or rejuvenating effect for those who need it most.
Right, right. Targeting the areas with the biggest potential for positive change. So beyond just turning back the clock on biological age, what other, maybe more tangible benefits did these studies uncover? I'm thinking about things we deal with day to day, like metabolic health, or I don't know, our ability to fight off a common cold. Did they see changes there?
Absolutely. The studies revealed very concrete system-wide improvements, quite a few actually. First, there was a significant reduction in abdominal and hepatic fat, liver fat. After just 3 FMD cycles, participants saw notable decreases in BMI, yes, but also total body fat, and both subcutaneous fat, the stuff under the skin, and importantly, visceral adipose tissue.
That's the dangerous stuff, right? Around the organ.
That's the one, the dangerous fat. Hepatic fat fraction, or liver fat, also dropped significantly, especially for those who already had existing fatty liver disease, defined as over 5% liver fat. They saw nearly a 50% reduction. Huge.
Wow, nearly half.
Yeah. Interestingly, though, pancreatic fat didn't seem to change.
Okay. And what about metabolic health, like diabetes risk?
Yeah, beyond fat reduction, they observed some really impressive improvements in diabetes risk factors. For participants who were pre-diabetic at the start, the FMD cycles helped restore their glucose levels back to a healthy range. They also significantly reduced insulin resistance that's measured by something called AOMA-IR. It basically tells you how well your body uses insulin.
Right, lower is better.
Lower is better, exactly. And it also lowered hemoglobin A1c levels, which gives you that picture of your average blood sugar over the past few months.
So multiple markers improving for pre-diabetics. That's big.
It is. And this next one is really fascinating for long-term health. There was a clear rejuvenation of the immune profile. FMD cycles actually increased the lymphoid to myeloid ratio.
Lymphoid to myeloid ratio. Okay, what does that mean in plain English?
Fair enough. You can think of it as your immune system's youth score. A higher ratio generally indicates a younger, more robust, more balanced immune system. This shift helps to counteract something called immunosenescence.
Immunosenescence.
The aging of the immune system.
Precisely. The age-related decline in immune function that makes us more vulnerable to infections as we get older and can even diminish how well vaccines work for us. So seeing this ratio improve is really encouraging. And importantly, these weren't just isolated tweaks. The improvements were broad across different systems, indicating a true systemic rejuvenating effect, not just, pushing one number up or down. Okay, this sounds incredibly promising. I mean, the idea that a dietary intervention could actually rejuvenate our immune system, that's kind of mind-blowing. So given all these effects, the biological load reduction, the fat loss, the metabolic improvements, the immune boost, what are the predictions? How might FMD actually influence long-term health, life expectancy, maybe even mortality risk? And, on the flip side, are there caveats? Important things our listeners should be aware of.
Yeah, the predictions based on these changes are indeed quite compelling, but it's really important to frame them correctly as predictions. So simulations based on these biomarker improvements suggest an increase in predicted median life expectancy. For example, in one trial, the average predicted median life expectancy rose from about 82.9 years to 83.7 years after just those 3 FMD cycles.
Almost a full year added, predictively.
Predictively, yes. And even more intriguing, perhaps, these simulations suggest that if you were to undertake annual FMD cycles, you could actually decelerate your rate of aging over time. After things stabilize, the model suggests that for every 1 chronological year that passes, your biological age might only increase by about 0.85 years.
So you'd be aging slower than the calendar suggests.
That's the projection, yes. And this also translates into predicted reductions in 20-year cause-specific mortality risks. For the big conditions we all worry about, heart disease, cancer, stroke, diabetes, the predicted benefits were especially pronounced for participants who are already at risk at baseline. For instance, simulating annual FMD up to age 70 showed the 20-year risk of heart disease mortality potentially being cut almost in half, dropping from a predicted 29.1% down to 15.4%.
Wow, nearly cutting it in half. That's a huge potential impact.
Huge potential, absolutely. But now, it's crucial we talk about the limitations here. Very important. These are estimated risk reductions and predicted life expectancy increases. They're based on sophisticated models using the biomarker data. They are not directly observed mortality data from these specific studies. That's a key distinction.
Right. We haven't actually followed these people for 20, 30, 40 years yet.
Exactly. While the biomarker changes are incredibly insightful and promising, we haven't done the decades-long studies to confirm people actually live longer or avoid those diseases at those predicted rates due specifically to FMD. Also, the effects of FMD cycles, while powerful in the short term, may not last indefinitely without continued cycles. Some previous research suggested some effects started to diminish after about 3 months if you didn't do another cycle.
So it's likely not a one-and-done fix.
Probably not, no. It seems more like periodic maintenance. And the simulations themselves have inherent limitations. They make assumptions about, say, participant compliance over many years, which is always tricky. There's potential volunteer bias, meaning people who sign up for diet studies might already be more health conscious than average. And the models used don't typically account for mortality itself. They assume individuals continue living to experience the risk reduction.
That makes sense. You have to make assumptions in any model. What about safety or specific groups? Any concerns there?
Generally, FMD was well tolerated in these trials, which involved adults up to age 70. However, more research is definitely needed for specific populations, particularly the very elderly, say over 65 or 70. We need more data on the impact on lean body mass, muscle mass in that group, and also potential interactions with the various medications older adults are often taking. That needs careful study.
Good points. And you mentioned it's quite standardized.
Yes, and that's sort of by design. The FMD, as developed and studied, is meant to be a standardized approach, almost like a medicine in a box. There's minimal patient-led adjustment, which helps ensure consistency in the clinical trials and likely contributes to the reliable effects seen.
Got it. Okay, this has been incredibly insightful, really peeling back the layers on how our bodies respond to this unique dietary strategy. So, for our listeners thinking about diet and longevity more generally, how does this FMD concept, especially, given its plant-based foundation, fit into the broader conversation about healthy eating patterns?
Yeah, that's a great question. If we connect this to the bigger picture, the fasting mimicking diet aligns beautifully, really, with the core principles of what many researchers now call a longevity diet. What does that mean? Well, it's largely plant-based, incorporates healthy fats, plenty of legumes, maybe fish a few times a week. And this isn't just theory. It's strongly supported by a lot of data gathered from centenarian populations worldwide.
The blue zones people.
Exactly. People living healthily to 100 and beyond, often in those blue zones. Their traditional diets share many of these features. Now, you contrast that with some other approaches you might hear about, like, say, the carnivore diet. While it's popular in some circles, it currently lacks any robust epidemiological or clinical data supporting its efficacy for long-term longevity. In fact, some data suggest potential risks. For example, high animal protein intake has actually been associated with a 4-fold increased cancer risk in people under 65 in some large studies.
4 times.
Yeah. The FMD, on the other hand, seems to, well, respect your body's deeply wired natural processes. It intelligently combines these traditional longevity-promoting ingredients with strong scientific backing from these trials. It creates a really powerful and synergistic effect that's, both effective and kind of rooted in ancestral wisdom, but tested with modern science.
What a deep dive this has been. Today, we've really explored the fascinating science of the fasting mimicking diet. We've discovered its potential to not just slow, but perhaps even, dare I say, rejuvenate your biological age based on these markers, and impact critical health factors like liver fat and insulin sensitivity, and even give your immune system a potential boost. It's truly about an intentional restoration, isn't it, of the human organism, a process that goes beyond just, maintaining health.
I think that's a great way to put it. The FMD represents a periodic intervention that actively encourages the body's own innate capacity for renewal. The idea that we can activate these deep-seated cellular repair and regenerative programs through a structured, temporary dietary approach, it offers a powerful new perspective, a perspective on managing disease risk and enhancing not just lifespan, but health span or healthy years. It kind of shifts the paradigm, doesn't it? From just treating illness after it happens to proactively optimizing our fundamental biological processes, almost like performing a periodic system-wide software update for your body.
It's a software update for the body. I love that analogy. So this raises a really important question for you, our listener. If our bodies inherently possess this incredible capacity for this kind of restoration and even rejuvenation, how might understanding and maybe incorporating these periodic filtering moments, these FMD-like cycles, change your personal health journey? What might you prioritize differently for your well-being? What new potential could this hold for your future health? And maybe how might it shift your view on proactive self-care versus just reactive healthcare? Lots to think about there. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time, keep learning, keep questioning, and stay well informed.